Hey guys, how's it going? Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be going over some of the advanced controls that you can see in Apex Legends. I know for me personally that this was something quite daunting at first. I looked at it, I went to adjust some settings, and then I figured, no, I'm not going to do that because it was just too hard to understand everything. So I'm going to go over some of my settings today, remembering that the settings that I have are not going to work exactly for you. However, if you are a person that's played Call of Duty over the years like I have, and you typically sit on the top 10% of sensitivity, so like right up the top within that top 10%, this will be a good starting point for you, and then you can do some fine adjustments. So obviously, the best place to do this is in the firing range. I usually go R99 because it's one of the most sporadic guns to control. I usually get a gold stabilizer, stock and extendo, stock up on ammo. But the reason I want to make this is because there's a stigma with consoles and controller players where the most advanced setting adjustments that you will do is literally your sensitivity. Like, I've gone to PC and I've come back, and I just wish we had the same sort of controls that we did with that PC do, but we don't. However, we will get into it. Controller, okay, this is where we start. So, button layout. I have mine on button puncher. This is what I've been using for years and years and years, like literally for like 10 years. The reason being is I like to be able to knee slide and have control over my character with the joystick. Especially in a game like this and later newer Call of Duties where the melee is not so important, your best bet is to honestly change it to button puncher, and if you can get used to it, then awesome. Another good one is to customize it yourself and change that joystick to the jump button, and then make your crouch the A button. If you can get used to that sort of sensitivity, that's a pretty good option as well. So, stick layout, I've got that on standard. I know some of you play Southpaw and Legacy and all those sorts of things, but I do not touch those. Interact, I've got tap to use and reload. You can have tap to use, hold to reload, which is what PUBG is, or you can have hold to use, tap to reload. Crouch button, I've got it on toggle. You want toggle. Trust me, you want toggle. You do not want to have to hold it. Yes, with the hold, you can bunny hop a little bit. With toggle, you honestly, your parkour type movements are going to be way better. Aim, button, hold. Obviously, you don't want that on toggle unless you're very used to PUBG and games like that. Trigger dead zones. You want to put these on 0 or none. If you have a broken controller and your triggers are quite loose, you might want to put it on default. But preferably, honestly, you want to aim and shoot as soon as you touch that trigger. As soon as those triggers are depressed, you want to be shooting. Menu cursor speed, adjust this how you will. I've only gone up a few steps from the default. But honestly, I could probably go up another 1 or 2. Go up slowly with it. That's what I recommend. Each day, put it up once. And then continue with that. Movement dead zone, I've got it on small. I really like to be able to move as soon as my joystick is moving. Inverted look, nope. Vibration, turn this off. It'll make you way more accurate. It's one of the easiest things in a first-person shooter to remove to make you better at aiming. Advanced, okay, this is where you go. So you're gonna see this screen. Let me put this in full screen for this one. So you're gonna see this screen. What you wanna do is press on, and then as you can see, there's a lot of settings. Extra paw, pitch speed, yaw speed, things like that. We're gonna go over them right now. So dead zone, put that on 0. I like to be up a little bit in Apex Legends, just because Apex Legends has quite an old school type of aiming sensitivity. So I keep that up just a little bit. So for me, I have it up 2 clicks from the bottom. Outer threshold. So I have this up a bit more so that I don't have to take my joystick all the way to the right to kick into my outer threshold, which is going to be really good for your extra yaw and stuff like that, which is just your extra speed when you hit the max point. So I have that just 1 up, which is the default. Response curve, I keep this on default. You can fiddle around with these, but it's very hard to distinguish the differences unless you're very finicky. I personally just grew to learn the response curve, but if you could fiddle around with that, you could improve your stuff as well. Target compensation, this is just your aim assist, so I guess keep that on. I have played PC recently and noticed that aim assist off isn't actually that bad in Apex Legends. It's not like Call of Duty. It's still quite easy to aim. Per optic settings. So, I only really use 1-2 times. I use it 3 times if I have to. So I've got my 1 times on a 1.0. So that's just the same multiplier as my normal sensitivity. The 2 times optic, I've got it on 0.8. So the reason I have the 2 times, obviously it zooms in a bit more. I wanted a bit slower just to have a bit more control. And this has worked out perfect for me. Anything above that, you kind of want to adjust yourself. So I've got the 3 on 0.8 as well, just to match it with the 2. The 4 on 1, 6 on 6, 8 on 6, or 0.6, and 10 on 0.6 as well. But those bottom 4, I never touch them. So I could honestly fiddle around with these more, but I just don't care for it because I know I'm never going to pick up those scopes very often. Your speed. So this is how quick you turn left and right. So this is your normal sensitivity, right? This is your horizontal sensitivity. I have mine 24 up from the default. So if you want to start on the same as me, go for it there. Pitch speed, I move this up by the default as well. However, there's not as much verticality in this game as there is horizontal sort of playstyle. So I don't put it up quite as high because there's no need to have that sort of up and down super speed movement. I know there's pathfinders, but your horizontal is enough, and that right there is enough as well. So 15, 16. So I've gone around and fiddled with these a lot, so that's why I'm trying to get them back in the exact same spot. So that is a good guide there. You want your pitch speed to be about 75% of your yaw speed. That's what I'm trying to say. Turning extra yaw speed. So this is what I was talking about with the outer threshold up the top there. What this does is when your joystick hits its max, let me just move it up here. When your joystick hits its max movement all the way to the side, it's going to kick into the extra yaw speed. All right. So I've got my normal, it'll be this joystick, sorry. I've got my normal movement. If I just move the joystick about this much, then I'm gonna have my normal sensitivity kicking in and a normal response curve. If I need to turn around real quick, all I have to do is touch the outer brim or hit my outer threshold. And what that is gonna do is make me move at a much faster pace. So it's gonna, see where it says extra yaw? I've got it above the default. I've almost got that maxed out. So that is really, really important. You wanna put that up. And then that way, when you're aiming and stuff, hip firing and that, you can have your yaw speed quite low and then still have your turning extra yaw up really high. And then you'll still be able to turn very fast if you put your joystick to the max, as well as you will have a very controlled hip fire if you lower the yaw speed. So you can set your yaw speed to what you want, but you always want your extra yaw to be max. And it might take a little bit of adjusting to get used to the fact that to not put your joystick all the way to the edge of your controller, but trust me, it is well worth it because I can do very controlled aiming now as well as very, very quick turning around. Turning extra pitch, that is exactly the same. For me, I don't need the extra pitch. I rarely will need to look up that far. I don't need to do 180s like I do with the yaw. So for me, I've got it 1 up. But like I said, how often do you ever need to do a full 180 degree upward movement because you physically can't? It's usually only about 70 degrees you go. So do with that as you will. Turning up ramp time, I've got this to the minimum. All this setting here is how fast it takes for your control to get to your extra yaw speed. So if I turn this all the way up to the top, all the way to the top, if I set it to there and I want to move, it's going to take however many seconds or milliseconds of that full bar equals. It's going to take that long for it to get to my maximum speed, if that makes sense. So if that's, say that's 3 seconds, we'll blow it out. It's not going to be 3 seconds. It's going to be like 30 milliseconds or something. If that's 3 seconds, if I push my joystick to the right to turn around, I'm going to only have my normal yaw speed turning, and then it will slowly build up to my extra yaw speed. But it will take 3 seconds to get there. So I have this on minimum so that as soon as I have my As soon as I have my joystick to the wall of my controller, I am at my maximum yaw speed. Turning ramp up delay. This is how long it takes before applying the extra yaw. So you can have, so this is how long it takes for it to get up to that speed. So it'll be going like this, and then it'll get up to that speed. Whereas your delay is it'll just go like this until, for a certain amount of time, and then it'll start ramping up. So you could have that set to 2 seconds, and then it's gonna start ramping up, if you know what I mean. There'll be a 2-second delay, and then there'll be a 3-second ramp up time. So in total, it'll take 5 seconds to get to your maximum extra yaw. Which obviously 5 seconds is not real, would be in milliseconds, but they don't have it written there. ADS yaw speed. So this one is really good too. You wanna fiddle around with these. These are quite difficult to give to someone else, but these are mine. I'll count back here. So turning extra yaw is only 1 down. Turning extra pitch is 1 up. Turning ramp up, all your ramp ups, keep them on 0. ADS yaw speed, I've got this above the normal because it's quite slow. And this gives you a much more accurate picture than going into your multiplier. So you set this, then you go into your per optic settings, and this is the multiplier that it fields. So when I have my 1 times, it's doing the exact same speed as my ADS yaw speed here. My 2 times scope was on 0.8, so it's going to be slightly slower than what I've got here. Same with your pitch. So my 2 times will be 0.8 of both of these. ADS turning extra yaw speed. I don't have any extra turning, okay? For me, I want a very, very controlled ADS. I do not want to have ramp ups and boosts and things like that, so I keep it all default. There is a little bit of extra yaw there, but it's not, just the default setting is really good. You don't want to lift this up because you don't want to have that sporadic aiming movement, because a lot of the time you don't want that when you're aiming down sight. You don't need that extra boost to turn around, okay? You can test and adjust with it, but I highly recommend you keep that at the default. ADS turning ramp up time, I've got this, look at this is maxed out. I think it's maxed out by default, but that is pretty much, that right there is showing you that even the developers think that you don't want that. By default, you have a maximum ramp up time, which means it's going to take ages for it to get to that top speed, that extra speed. So ADS stuff, all you want to adjust is your yaw and pitch and your per optic settings. So, and once you've done that, once you fiddle around with it, all you do is come in here, grab some of these. So as you can see, this is my normal speed, this is my normal sensitivity. And then if I push the joystick to the edge of the controller, look at that. Normal, edge, normal, edge, normal, edge, or outer threshold. And that is what I'm talking about. So I can still have my controlled movements and shit while I'm doing this. Aiming, things like that. And then if someone comes up behind me, I can turn very quickly. Up and down, like I said, it's very good how it is now. Because how often do you need to 180? You physically can't. In terms of the sensitivities, I can go very quickly. Both sides. So you'll see some people have come into the stream and they've literally said that I use mouse and keyboard, and it's honestly because of these settings. You can get extremely accurate, as well as be very sporadic with your movements. So I hope this helped at all, guys. I hope some of the settings, it was better explained for you. I know I rambled on a little bit. However, I really suggest that you fiddle around with these settings, because honestly, it has improved my gameplay tenfold, especially with guns like the R99. Like you just saw how accurate it was. I know it was a still target, and I was quite close. However, you saw how accurate I was with a 2x scope and an R99. So definitely check them out. Let me just switch the screen back. So definitely check them out. Once again, I recommend you go back, screenshot some of the pages I had open, and then come into the fire range, try and play around with it yourself, and let me know how you go. Let me know if any of this improved your accuracy, because I can guarantee that it improved mine dramatically, like literally dramatically. And I want you guys to really take the 10 to 20 minutes to come into the firing range, fiddle around with it, even if you grab what I've got, and then lower them by a certain percentage. So if you're a guy that plays, or a girl that plays on a high sensitivity in most games, like very high, like I do, this will be a very good base for you. Start with this. If you're someone that plays on the medium settings, grab what I've done here and lower everything by a certain amount of numbers. So lower the extra yaw by 8, lower the extra pitch by 4, you know what I mean? Lower it by 50% or 25%, and then turn that into your base, and then build up from that. I really, really want to see you guys do this because it really does improve your gameplay. And without a video like this, it's quite hard to know what to do. And again, it's daunting and exhausting. You just don't want to do it. So give it a go, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next video or the next stream. Peace out.